All right. Good afternoon, everybody. It is 1 o'clock, December 2nd. We are going to go ahead and get started here on Finance Committee with introductions to the left.
Brittany Norris for the administration.
Colleen Hampsey, Council Research.
Mary Stefopoulos, Office of General Counsel.
Philip Peterson, Council Auditor's Office.
Kim Taylor, Council Auditor.
Good afternoon, Rory Diamond, District 13, The Beaches.
Nick Howland, at large, Group 3.
Joe Carlucci, District 5.
Good afternoon, Raleigh Reyes, District 11.
Will Lane in District 3.
Jacoby Pittman, Mega District 10.
Good afternoon, Rockland Johnson, District 14, just visiting.
All right. Just a few quick notes for the committee before we go into the first presentation, which is going to be Mr. Mike Weinstein on the stadium renovation update. We're going to skip around just a few things in the agenda today, so I'll just give everyone kind of a heads up. Item number 10, 2025-838. We're going to take that up first. I know it is marked as deferred, but I did want to recognize Councilmember Johnson to speak to it, just to kind of give us a rundown of how it's been going through the process, so we kind of know why it was deferred and any updates you have. And if there's any other council members that want to speak to it, we can obviously hear your thoughts. And then the next one, I think, we're going to go to page 13, item 27, 2025-882. We were going to take that up second. If Councilmember Gaffney is still joining us, we can wait on him. If we take that up second, we can kind of, we'll wait for him. So we can go through a few of the other easy ones first if he's not here. So otherwise, yeah, that's going to be kind of how we're hopping around, so on and so forth. So with that, Mr. Weinstein, if you'd like to come on down and give us the update. We won't really have a time limit for you, but don't keep us too long.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. They're passing around a little folder from the Jaguars with just a couple of pictures. Sort of illustrates some of the construction site progress and what have you. But I'd like to go over, once they're out, go over just a few things. And in the future, at a minimum, I'd like to come each quarter to finance to bring you up to date on it. I come more often if you want me to, but at a minimum of once a quarter. All of you have seen, I'm sure, the renovation that's taking place. Everybody always jumps to the budget, and if you recall, we were very fortunate to have an agreement where the Jaguars will cover if there are any overruns, and the budget does fluctuate. They review it practically every month. Things do change. Tariffs have an effect. Everything sort of has an effect. But it's right now it's a little bit over budget, but it may change. But we're very cautious to that. And if you recall, when in the lease, that if the city does anything to basically cause a delay or require something to be implemented that wasn't in the original design, then we could be held accountable to an overrun. So we are very, very cautious to make sure that we work very closely with the builders, but we try not to jeopardize that argument at all. And as far as communication goes, you may recall that we have hired Gilbane, and Gilbane builds stadiums around the country as part of their business. They are basically our owner's rep on site. So anything that happens, anything that I have to ultimately approve, because we do have to identify a city rep, and I'm still the city rep as far as the documents go, but I don't approve anything that first hasn't been approved by Gilbane and then Public Works. Steve Long, who's back behind me, and you know very well, he's the contact through Public Works. He's on site many times during the day and during the weeks. So between Gilbane, Public Works, and then myself, that's the approval process on any change, any budget adjustment, any payment that has to be made as well. So we are very well protected by very capable people. The timing is still on board to be done. Opening game on the 28th, August 28th season. Believe it or not, we did talk about the possibility of home playoffs when we started this process. Some people weren't really given any credit to that, but lo and behold, we may in fact have playoff games here. So it was always contemplated that that may happen, as well as we have the Gator Bowl still to come, and we have another season still to come, which just gives me an opportunity to give you a heads up, especially on finance, when we start talking about the budget. It's a very difficult decision as to what capital improvements we need to make sure that the NFL is comfortable with our last season here, but not waste money because it may be in renovation taken away. So we'll have an opportunity through the budget cycle to go over, like we did last time and the time before, all of ASM, now Legends, requests to do things within the stadium. We were very fortunate with the weather. We didn't have a hurricane. Councilman Gay, who isn't here, would appreciate this. As far as the way we spend money, there's about a $25 million savings if the city purchases the items that need to be in the renovation. So the ratio of Jaguar money and our money will end up where it should be at the end. But as we go through the renovation, it's not exactly that because, again, we're buying the materials, they're paying for the labor, and towards the end, it'll get to the right ratio. But right now, the ratio is off. And it's to our benefit because our money's sitting in the accounts longer than theirs, and we're getting the interest on that. JSEP's a big part of it. There's meetings and there's people dedicated to the JSEP effort within the entire stadium process. Resiliency, anything that we can do towards LEEDs certification, not that we'll get there, but all the credits that we could possibly get, we're dealing with that as well. And the Jaguars are definitely into that as well. So, I don't have a problem to bring you. I don't have a major change to bring you. There's one thing that happened a little while ago. I think one of the media outlets presented a picture, and it was maybe a little bit different than the ultimate design that we all approved. And I spoke to Mark Lamping about it, and basically it was a picture. If you recall, they did a lot of town halls. They called them huddles, I think. And the picture sort of changed during that process before we ever started negotiating. So the end result is going to be like we approved, and it's going to look like we approved. There'll be some changes. There might be one less toilet. There might be one less this. There might be one more this. But the place will look like it's supposed to, and it will be what we all agreed to spend, $775 million on. I think by the time it's over, I think we started at about 55% city and 45% Jaguars, around there. I think it'll end up at least 50-50 or more Jaguars than city. So I think when this is all done, we'll have a stadium that the city put in probably a little less than 50% of the renovation because of the overruns. Not that they'll be extensive, but they'll be enough to change the ratio. That's questions if you'd like, Mr. Chairman, but that's basically an update without any real problems at this point.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah, we'll go to the queue. We've got a few speakers here for questions. Councilmember Salem, you're recognized.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Through the Chair, Mr. Weinstein. Can you give me some examples of what would trigger the cost overrun issue where...
That we would be responsible for?
Yes, yes.
If all of a sudden we wanted a big screen somewhere, or we wanted something in the suites that weren't originally called for, or we wanted a different topping or a different marble somewhere, something like that. We're doing the permitting on time. I mean, if we screwed up and just lost the permitting process for months and delayed the process, I think our issue, if it ever came to it, wouldn't be so much about what we want in it, but that we affected the timing in the process of inspections and permitting and what have you. So we're on top of it, and Steve and Ryan from Gilbane are on top of it. We meet constantly, and it's a big group. They have a lot of contractors and a lot of people that are working on it, and it's a very complicated project.
Would you, if I can, would you anticipate us making quote, an upgrade to the state where the city would request that? I just can't imagine that we would do that.
I think everything was built to NFL standards, which was pretty high. There might be a security issue, because it's still a couple of years away and something may happen at some stadium somewhere where all of a sudden we've got to make an adjustment about security, and that's even a topic that's being discussed. And one thing I do want to mention to you that's been a challenge to the project, that they've been relying, as they should, on old drawings of where infrastructure is. I mean 30, 40, 50 years Gator Bowl. And some of those drawings aren't as accurate as we would like them. So, and that's not it's not a problem that we have created, but it is a challenge as they continue to move forward that some of the history isn't exact, and that's affecting some changes. And we've already made some changes as to how the infrastructure was to be done because of that.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you, Chair.
All right. And we want to go ahead and acknowledge and welcome Councilmember Clark Murray. Thank you for being here. And Councilmember Freeman, thank you for coming on in. We'll go through the rest of the speakers for questions. Councilmember Landon, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. And through Chair Mr. Weinstein, thank you for the update. Doesn't sound like there's too much to be concerned about. I did have a question just regarding this fiscal year. So about 1/4 of our CIP was just for the stadium. So $150 million is what we budgeted. Based on what you're seeing now, do you think that we're going to need to spend more or less than that this year? Because my recollection was this is essentially the reimbursement portion. So I'm just trying to see if we think any of that will be a deferred need we need in the following years, or if we think we're going to spend more than the 150 that we originally thought this year.
Well, the first year was 150, and although a lot of that was obligated as far as future purchases, it wasn't expensed. This year was to be 150 again. We increased it by 60, I believe. So I think the CIP that you approved a couple of months ago had a CIP of about 210, if I stand corrected. Yeah. So we already increased it, but again, won't increase the total. It's just the timing, and the timing strictly is relating to the purchasing of items. And tariffs again have come into that with the steel and everything. So they wanted to get as much basically obligated as possible. And there's a possibility come March, April, May, we might come back and say we need another 30 moved up. But again, it won't affect the total. It just affects the timing of ours. That's all.
Through the Chair, thank you, Mr. Weinstein.
All right. Councilmember Johnson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through the Chair to Representative Weinstein, thank you so much for shepherding this project and the great work that you're doing. My question is about JSEBs. I know I see Mr. Randolph here in the audience, but I'm just curious, have we hit those? I think it was a 20% number that we put in. Have we hit those targets? And if not, are we doing something to ensure that those small emerging businesses in our community are brought into the fold on this project?
Through the Chair, that's a timing issue as well. When you go to the site, you see some really major pillars and what have you, things that we don't normally do here and what have you. So if you looked at the percentages today, they wouldn't be at target, because all that's to come when they do all the interior and all the design and all the painting and all the walls and what have you. But again, as I said before, there are meetings that go on constantly with that as the topic only. And Jaguars have a dedicated individual that monitors it, and so do we. And I'm confident that we'll be, as the Jaguars have been with most of their projects, over the target. But it'll have to be an end picture rather than at the beginning, because of the type of construction that's being done now.
All right, good. All right. We don't have any other speakers in the queue. I just have one quick question regarding the picture that you referenced, because I actually got a text about that. Which one is the right one? Is it the one with the big block letters or the one with the screen? Do you remember?
I would suspect that it's the one in the folder, because the Jaguars sent them over.
Yeah, we would hope, right?
So I would assume I couldn't have even picked out the difference.
Right. Got it. Perfect. No, that helps. Okay.
Yeah, it's been a great partnership, as was the Miller Construction and Dailies. We're very blessed to have the Jaguars participate the way they do, not only financially, but also in a partnership build. It's a very complicated, but it's moving along very well.
All right. Well, thank you for all your hard work on it. I know it's been a lot of meetings, so we appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Next, we're going to go to our second presentation from Ms. Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through the chair to the committee, just wanted to briefly mention we issued report number 898. It's our annual report. Won't go into all the details. It just summarizes all of the things that we've done in the last year related to our responsibilities to City Council, including audits, number of audits done, legislative review, how our team has helped out there and doing all the things that we try to protect the city resources and make recommendations to you all, the special committees that we've handled and budget as well. So we just want to thank you for all the support that we get from City Council throughout the entire year, and happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Seeing no one in the queue, no questions. And we'll go ahead and welcome Council President Carrico. Thank you so much for being here, sir. All right. So with that, we're going to kind of keep the order of events that we said. We're going to go through number 1, 2, 3, 4, since those are all deferred. So item number 1, 2024-627 is deferred. Item number 2, 2024-966 is deferred. Item number 3, 2025-361 is deferred. Item number 4, 2025-775 is deferred. Then we're going to skip over to item number 10 to accommodate our visiting council members' schedules. Item number 2025-838 is being deferred. However, I did want to give the floor to the bill sponsor for those of us that maybe just showed up, just to kind of give us a rundown of kind of the process that it's met until now and why it's being deferred, and then we'll go from there. Councilmember Johnson, would you like to speak to it?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate the opportunity, and I just wanted to stand to explain the deferral of the Wonderland Corridor project. Over the last few days, it's become clear that some legal information, I did not get all of the information that I needed from our legal team. And so I want to make sure I'm literally headed from this committee meeting up to a meeting with the General Counsel, because I wanted to make sure that material information was provided in the way that was proper. But I would respectfully ask that this be deferred. The process with this is still going forward. I do understand that the community on all parts of this project is still very much in favor of it. And there are some legal options that I did not know that were available, so I'm going to discuss those now. I do believe that this is something that could be an amazing opportunity for the West Side, so I do hope that you would defer it and allow this process may not be needed. Once I have this meeting, there's a possibility that this particular piece of the legislation would be withdrawn anyway, if it be the pleasure of the committee. So I'll certainly get back to that. I look forward to not just debating this, but moving this forward in January. And I believe that this could be a great opportunity for the West Side and Wonderland Corridor. And if there are any questions that are here, I'll be more than happy to answer them.
Okay, great. Yeah, no, I think we just kind of wanted to give a brief understanding of it, and then we have one other speaker in the queue, Ms. Clark Murray. You're recognized. Do you want to speak to the deferral and everything? Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair, and good afternoon to everyone. So there's no secret that as the council representative for District 9 that I am opposed to Bill 838. And one of the reasons why is, let's just say, for example, what would you think if another council member from another district decided to appropriate some of your dollars, be they CBA dollars or any dollars, to a project that he has that will impact your district, but he took it upon himself to appropriate your dollars, and it's in the bill that it says CBA dollars, $250,000 from District 9, and it's also a part of the $750,000 in the petition that he intended to circulate to the community or to those businesses. So with that being said, there's no consent from me as the council representative. And bottom line, it's a form of disrespect. Additionally, he did have notice meetings, and I was aware of those notice meetings. I did not attend them. But does not attending them mean that I give consent to moving the dollars from my district into his project? It does not. And so that's one of the reasons why this bill is deferred. It's another reason why in neighborhoods yesterday, I proposed an amendment to remove all references to District 9 and especially the District 9 dollars out of his proposed ordinance. And that's pretty much what I need to say about the bill. I don't know what changes the bill sponsor is making, but I would hope that he is in agreement, and what part of those changes will be removing the dollars that he put into his ordinance and petition that come from District 9.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll just go ahead and state for the record, we don't want to have too much back and forth on this. We just want to. I just wanted to give y'all both the floor, the opportunity. So, Councilmember Johnson, we'll go to you. And again, let's speak just to the bill.
Yes.
For now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Since I was name checked, I want to say that I had several not only noticed meetings but other meetings and put the information out. I understand there may be a lack of comprehension of what was put into this bill. But specifically, this was only about one thing, which was I was told the only way forward was to do a petition. This was about a petition not moving any dollars. There would be subsequent votes if that were the case. This was a proposal. During former Council President White's time in office, we have been trying to meet for this for months and requesting meetings. So I look forward to not only working with the entirety of the West Side, including Councilmember Clark Murray, Councilmember White, and any others that are interested in this project. Again, I'm going to meet to see what the necessity is, but it does not. This particular legislation, while it does reference the recommendation, it specifically uses the term recommendation. It does not remove any funds from any part of the CBA. It was simply a recommendation. Thank you for letting me clear the air so that we can really understand the crux of this bill, and I look forward to coming back with this in January. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Clark Murray, now, look, we're not going to go back and forth on this. You're going? Okay. All right.
Thank you, Chair.
I'll give you the floor
appreciate
for 1
that,
minute.
But
Thank you.
It is through the chair to this committee, it is clear, and you can read it in the bill, you can read it in the ordinance, you can read it in the exhibits, that it does reference CBA dollars from districts 12, 14, and 9. So it's not a lack of comprehension on my part. I read very well, and I understand very well, and you can see it for yourself in the exhibits.
All right. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. No problem. All right. So number 10, 2025-838 is deferred. And then number 27, we said we were going to go to that, but Councilmember Gaffney is still on the way. So we're going to go ahead and go back. What? So we're going to go back to the beginning. Item number 5, we've already gone through 1, 2, 3, 4. Those are all deferred. Item number 5, 2025-781. All right, we have a motion and a second on the rules substitute. And before we get into kind of any discussion here, just to clarify and remind everybody, the rules substitute did build off of the finance's previous amendment, so it's kind of all meshed into one. So with that, if we can have someone explain the substitute.
Through the chair to the committee, so as the chair stated, the finance substitute was moved at Rules Committee, and then Rules Committee added 3 additional items that I'll point out to you on your agenda. First is item number 3, to reduce the appropriation for EWU by $675,000 and place that $675,000 into a contingency for apprenticeship programs. That a term sheet will be developed at a later time, and separate legislation will be brought back. Number 4, place the remaining $2 million for EWU into a contingency pending legal review of the public purpose for those dollars. And then item 7G, just reflecting the revised appropriation to EWU of $2 million into the term sheet that's attached to the legislation. All other items were the same that were discussed at the previous Finance Committee meeting.
All right, thank you. So that was 3, 4, and 7G, correct? Okay, awesome. All right, so we do have a motion and a second. Now we'll go to discussion. Councilmember Diamond, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was able to watch a little bit of rules, and I'm just confused as to the issue with regards to Edward Waters University and putting it below the line and the public purpose stuff. I think that who from the administration is here to talk about that?
Ms. Miller or Ms. Norris, who would like to speak to that?
It was really an OGC matter that was raised, not an administration matter.
Sure. Okay, but here's what I'm confused. We gave $10 million to JU Law School. help me understand the difference here. Like, it seems like we're picking on EWU, and that doesn't make sense to me. Through the chair.
Through the chair to Councilmember Diamond. So this was a matter that was addressed initially. We had some preliminary conversations with Councilmember Arias that the Office of General Counsel is always keeping an eye on public purpose. And we were doing an analysis of a couple of the projects that were being proposed to make sure that we were confident that we had justification for the public purpose. Because as you know, as council, you all make policy decisions as to whether or not you think there's a sufficient public purpose, but we also look at it to make sure we feel that you're on sound legal footing with those decisions when you make them. Mr. Sawyer from our office had reached out to Greenberg Traurig, who is our bond counsel, and they're kind of entrenched in this area of law on a very regular basis. And they looked at the projects that were being proposed and shared a preliminary concern that there may be an issue with respect to a public purpose, because ultimately what we're funding for EWU is dormitories.
Yeah, but just one sec, through the chair, but I'm sure GT is great bond counsel. Don't get me wrong, they're super smart lawyers. I still remember interviewing there and walking out with a headache. Like, they're very smart. But were they looking at prior decisions we made? I mean, did they see that we think there's a public purpose for a esports arena? We think there's a public purpose for spending money for a law school downtown. We think there's a public purpose for all these other things we've done on all these other campuses, but we picked this one out?
Through the chair to Councilmember Diamond. So as I indicated, our office contacted them with respect to a few of the projects that were being proposed in this legislation. We have worked with them on other projects in the past. They wouldn't have necessarily 100% of every project that the City Council has funded or that the city has funded. We have funded Edward Waters University in the past relative to dormitory renovations. That was about 10 years ago. And so while we ultimately, I expressed to the Rules Committee, we may end up in a place that it's not problematic and that there wouldn't be an issue with the public purpose, the Rules Committee saw fit to give us the opportunity to do that deeper dive and to finish out that analysis to make sure that we didn't have concerns that there wasn't sound legal footing, because the area of law, this particular type of project hasn't been funded in 10 years. It's a changing area, and so they were willing to give us that opportunity to do that additional analysis to make sure we could give you that information.
I'm tracking, and through the chair, and this isn't to you, Ms. Mary, but this seems very thin to me. Like, we're finding public purpose for what I think are completely ridiculous projects. They're so far afield. The esports arena at UNF just like stands at the top of my mind. But this is the one where, like, no, Edward Waters University having a dorm, that's where suddenly OGC is like, we have heartburn. It smells bad to me. I don't buy it. I would love to talk to Mr. Sawyer on his analysis or whoever it is at GT, but this just seems very strange to me. There's something here that's not right. I don't know what it is, but I don't agree with this analysis that you could have a public purpose for all these other projects, but suddenly Edward Waters, we're going to stop at the dorm. It's just weird. I'm voting against the whole bill, just to be clear. I think we don't have this money, but that's wild to me.
All right. Next, we'll go to Council President Carrico. You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thanks for having me. I agree with Councilman Diamond on this in just trying to define that public purpose. And I have a question for the administration. When we were presented a budget this year, Edward Waters University for this very project was in the budget for $8 million. And if you recall, the Finance Committee took that out. And then we had notice meetings back in the summer on trying to get some money back in for them. And, you know, it was at $4 million. Now it's at $2 million. I'm a little frustrated with that, but I think Edward Waters University is still comfortable with the $2 million. But I want to ask the administration what due diligence was done to put this in the budget to say it was a public purpose when it was presented to the Finance Committee at $8 million. So that's to Ms. Norris or Ms. whoever's from Finance.
Through the chair to the council president, I'm not even sure we got to that conversation. I believe this funding was removed by the Finance Committee in the budget process.
Yeah, it was removed, but you put it in the budget. So my question would be, in order to put that in the budget, doesn't it have to have some kind of public purpose for you to present it to us? I see Ms. Taylor nodding her head.
I mean, I imagine we saw public purpose with it, and I imagine it would have gotten caught in this same review by the Office of General Counsel. So I can do some digging and find out and get back to you on that.
Yeah, I just want to know what was done previous to go ahead and say that you wanted to fund it at $8 million and what is different. Again, now we have a difference and we're saying it's not a public purpose. I won't rehash everything that Councilmember Diamond said, but that is kind of my frustration that there's a lot of great work being done on this bill, and we can address that, I guess, once we get past this. But to me, this is the issue that I like to see resolved, and I want to ask if there's any way through the auditors or through the chair to the auditors that we can move this above the line now, and if it doesn't work out by Tuesday, maybe change it with a floor amendment if you guys can't get that legal review back. But it seems like a shot at Edward Waters, and I just want to be comfortable with what you guys think if we can put it back in now.
Through the chair to the council president, I don't, from an auditor standpoint, I don't see why we couldn't move it back above the line. I think the legal issue still remains, but from an appropriation standpoint, I don't see a problem with that.
Auditors don't have a problem. Administration doesn't seem to have a problem. Ms. Stefopoulos?
Through the chair to Council President Carrico, it's my responsibility to make you aware of concerns that we have, but ultimately it's a policy decision if you choose to proceed on it, and that is what it is.
All right, well, with the caveat that, OGC still has till next Tuesday, a week from now, if they find some kind of red flag to bring to our attention, I'd like to make a motion to move the $2 million above the line. And I'll turn it back to you, Mr. Chair.
If I could, just to clarify, we're moving the $2 million above the line, not because it was originally 2.675, but portion of that through the prior amendment and rules was moved over for apprenticeship. So we're just moving the $2 million above the line to Edward Waters.
That's correct.
Thank you.
All right, good to go. And real quick, before we go through the queue and everyone on the queue, just make sure you're speaking to the new motion on the table. And to the auditors, the term sheet is good, right? Because I know there were some questions about, no?
To the chair, so the term sheet attached to the bill has been approved by Finance Committee to this point. The administration was working on all of the term sheets. My understanding is that they stopped once Edward Waters was put below the line, so I don't know if they have additional recommendations on the Edward Waters term sheet or not.
Okay, got it. All right, so we're going to go ahead and go through the normal queue here, and everyone just, again, remember that we're on that motion. So, Ms. Pittman, you're recognized.
I just wanted to ask a question, not only for the appropriation for this, but as we move forward the future, one, if all of the organizations, the nonprofit or not a nonprofit, a training center that's here, and the colleges that are here, it's reimbursement, right? And in the landscape that we're in right now, a lot of these organizations would have to come up with the money up front. And this is not my first time bringing this up. And I only share this is because I'm in the nonprofit as well, and things have changed. I'm not sure if we can, and maybe this is a policy thing, and maybe OGC could put me in the right order. In order to make sure these organizations are successful, a lot of times they need funding upfront, reimbursement, to help them be successful and make sure the money that's been allocated to them, that they can spend it in a timely manner. And so I pose this question because of what's going on in our landscape. If funding could be, whether it's 10%, 15% upfront to get them started. I don't know if any of you all have ever experienced this, and maybe you can even ask some of them. It's very difficult right now. The projects that we're voting on, we want to make sure that they are successful. So I guess my question is, can we change that legislation to help these individuals? I've been sitting here for years where, a lot of the businesses get money up front and they're able to do their projects and they move on and they're successful. Well, I want to make sure if I'm voting and supporting this, and I know you, my finance man down here, but how do we do that to make sure that they are successful and money is not lagging, or it's going to take them a lot of time? And I don't know who can answer that question and give me a recommendation of how we can do that going forward.
Through the chair to Councilmember Pittman. So the decision whether or not to provide money up front is a policy decision that the council makes and has made on a case-by-case basis when various legislation for direct appropriations has come through. Often you will find that the auditor's office just shares a concern that when we provide significant portions of the city dollars up front, if there is an issue, it's very difficult to pull the money back, because ultimately if the money gets spent and it's spent inappropriately, there isn't money to then go receive back from the nonprofit because they didn't really have it in the first place. So it's just it's a policy decision with respect to the risk involved with providing additional monies up front, more than the 10% that the code already allows. And when the council chooses to do that, that's baked into the legislation in the term sheet that the council would approve. With respect to the legislation that's on the table currently, the term sheets that have been identified that were attached to the legislation have been modified over time. The administration is proposing some additional changes that have all been negotiated with these agencies that are standing to receive the funds. And I would say that with respect to whether or not there is reimbursement or upfront costs, that would have been part of the discussion when setting the business terms with these organizations, both when the initial bill was filed and also as it's made its way through the process, and there's been negotiations on those business terms with the administration as it's worked its way through the legislative process.
Okay, so I have a couple more questions. Or at
as
least
long
one
as,
more.
As long as it's just related to like pulling it above the line, because that's kind of
Okay,
yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's okay.
I'll wait until after
all that, and then to speak to the bill.
Yeah, I do have some more questions
on the bill.
Please.
Okay,
Yes,
all right, I'll get you
thank
back on there. Councilmember Arias, you're recognized.
All right, thank you, Chair. If you don't mind, may I call Miss Carla Miller? Where's she at? Oh, there she is. Miss Miller, if you don't mind, may I?
Yeah, go ahead.
If you don't mind coming up here, please. So she's been working with me, and obviously from the administration side, from OGC, working with the 5 different entities. So I have a question for you, Miss Miller. Obviously, the will right now is to put them above the line, putting EWU above the line, which I'm in support of as well, too. On your side, will you have any difficulties coming up with some sort of term sheets or answering the legal questions by next Tuesday? Because I know you're the one spearheading this from OGC side. Is this something that is doable by next Tuesday?
Carla Miller, Mayor's Office. The term sheet with EWU is already finished. Okay. I just talked with Dr. West about it. There was only one point that there was still a question on that you might want to discuss, but it's ready to go.
Okay,
now.
So that definitely satisfies all of us here. Thank you for that, Ms. Miller. And then the last component of it, the whole conversation about $8 million from the mayor's budget, proposed budget, and here we're looking at $2 million. Keep in mind, this was like a 3-phase project, and the part that we're actually funding right now is not the dorms. It's actually the public use part of it, which I think is for the main hall, the community center. So if anybody has any issues with the dorm part, rightfully so, if you have that issue, but this is not for that. This is actually going to be for the public use part of it. So I feel pretty confident that I want to put them above the line as well, too, and support this. So that's all I wanted to add. Thank you.
All right, Councilmember Salem, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. I'm very supportive of the CARICO amendment, and I agree with Councilmember Arias about this is designed on the community center, is what this is. This has got nothing to do with dorms. Number 3, I have a fear anytime we put something below the line, someone can come forward with legislation to spend that money. So I want this money moved up in this bill so we know EWU is going to get that money. And that this is the way to do it, is to attach it, move it forward, and be done with it. And if OGC comes back before next Tuesday with some information that we need to hear, they can do that. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Thank you so much. And Councilmember Arias, did you want to correct a statement made earlier?
Yes, sir. Want to, just for clarification, while this is not going to be towards the construction of the dorms, this is for the design of the entire project, but primarily is focused on the community center, which is why the design has public purpose use to it. That's why I feel confident about this. So I just wanted to make sure we clarify that. There will be some dorm components, but it's more on the design phase of it, not really the actual construction of the dorms. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that clarification. Council Vice President Howland, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Whether this money is below the line or above the line doesn't really matter to me. What matters to me is that we're following the law and that we're using taxpayer money wisely. So here's my question. If the Carrico amendment to the rule substitute is passed, Mr. Fopoulos, is there any way to ensure that this money will not get spent unless the smart attorneys at GT or OGC are comfortable with it?
Through the chair to Council Vice President Howland, no. Really, that probably, we need to put a pin in that before we could execute an agreement with EWU. I can talk to Mr. Sawyer about whether or not it would be sufficient protection on the city's part to write in, but a contract provision that states that subject to, and it may not be Greenberg Traurig. Our office is also doing the analysis, and we may run it by them, but a lot of that's going to be handled in-house. My concern being is that how do you draw that line, right? So I would be uncomfortable suggesting that an outside entity or even the Office of General Counsel would be dictating that decision without it coming back to the City Council, because ultimately, whether to fund them or not, and whether there is a public purpose that is sufficient, is a decision the council makes, not the Office of General Counsel. We can give legal advice as to whether or not we feel there is a sufficient legal basis and justification for it, but ultimately, whether there's a public purpose or not is something that is within the power of the council to decide and not our office.
Okay, then I'm thinking through options here that they may violate separation of powers, but could we put as a stipulation to the Carrico Amendment that it can only be spent when the council president is comfortable with the OGC's opinion of public purpose?
Through the chair to the council vice president, I'm not sure that's an appropriate delegation of authority. I think the authority to make that decision belongs to the body itself, and it's not something that can be delegated to an individual member.
Okay. And then the last question then is regarding the public purpose. I heard Mr. Salem say it's not for the dorm, but then I heard Mr. Arias say it's for the design component, which may include the dorm. Is there any way that we can ensure as part of this $2 million appropriation or grant to Edward Waters that they show us invoices where that money is spent that is only on design elements of the public use purpose, or that we get a certification that that money is only being spent on the design element for public purpose from the university president?
Through the chair to Council Vice President Howland, we had talked about that, myself and the auditor's office, but when you're designing an entire facility, I don't know how you have a design professional say, I spent 2 hours drawing this part versus this part. I don't know that there's a way that their contractors and consultants could separate the design of this part of the building versus another part of the building. But of course, I could defer to EWU, if their representatives, if they feel that they have a way to do that. But we were unable to think of a way where a contractor, a consultant, a design professional designing one entire facility would be able to differentiate portions in that manner.
Not even by hours of the design firm's, expenditure on the project.
I would again defer to them, but in thinking of how design professionals work, my husband's an engineer. I don't know how he would engineer one part of a building that's overall structurally the one facility.
Does Edward Waters have any thoughts on that through the chair?
Come on down.
Good afternoon, Michael West, Edward Waters University, address on file. Yes, a couple thoughts. One is the actual community conference center can be designed as a standalone with the residential components as wings. And so they can certainly be designed separately, but then added in later for the complete build out of the project. The other thing that I think has gotten lost since, we've had these conversations all summer and through the fall, we're also the host of the 2028 NCAA Division II National Outdoor Track and Field Championships, and part of this project is building a track on the Edward Waters campus. So part of the design dollars would go towards the track. Part of the design dollars would go towards the community center, which think of it as just a square or a cube sitting in front of you, and then once that design is done, you have two wings that will be coming off of that particular structure as the residence hall component, which would be completely separate and not part of this $2 million that we're asking the city to invest. The community center also is being designed so that it can be used as a hurricane shelter and also expand community services and resources. We already have 6 buildings on campus that serve the community in the Newtown area. So this isn't something new, and we've also talked about the money that Edward Waters received, back in 2017-18. That money could not be used by the university because we didn't have the liquid cash to put out to start the project. So it had to be renegotiated with the city when the new administration came on to go with a project completion invoice approach to doing this. And in that case, the money does not go straight to Edward Waters. It actually goes straight from the city to the contractor. And in our current term sheet, it also talks about you've got the city has to come out and inspect all the plans. It's got to inspect everything that we're doing. So the city's heavily involved in this based on how the term sheet is currently written.
Then, if I may, Mr. Chair, would Edward Waters be willing to, and do you think OGC, this is reasonable, to certify that after the money is spent, that the money spent was for public purpose in specific areas? Signed? No, Mary, not possible.
Through the chair to Council Vice President Howland, it's not their determination to make, it's the council's determination to make. So if they can certify it all day, at the end of the day, it's the authority of this body to make that decision.
Could you, then could we make as a stipulation to the Carrico Amendment that Edward Waters certifies that any money be spent on public purpose, the conference center and the track, and that you issue at the end of the completion of the appropriation a documentation certifying to that spend?
So there's a couple of things here. Number one, there is nothing with regards to a track in their term sheet. We're funding the Living Learning Community Center, the community center and the dorms. The meet that he referenced while they are hosting it is being held at the UNF facility that is being funded with these dollars, not on Edward Waters University campus. So the track doesn't have anything to do currently with what's contemplated in the term sheet.
Okay, then I turn to my colleagues and help us figure this out, because
the other issue there is the discussion about we are paying the contractors. I think that's problematic, and the procurement chief would probably say that's an issue because we're not in privity of contract with their contractors. We're in privity of contract with Edward Waters University. So they are very hesitant for any contract that we're not contracting with that contractor directly to say that they'll submit invoices to the city and then the city pays the contractor. Traditionally, the procurement chief is opposed to that kind of arrangement.
I'll give up the floor and ask my colleagues to help us think through this, because the point was brought up about the esports arena at UNF. We did some considerable changes to that $3 million investment where we didn't fund the building of that stadium. What we ended up funding was the development of the curriculum, some equipment, and some workforce development aspects of it. The purpose of this finance committee and city council is to be good stewards of the purse for the government of Jacksonville, and that means investing in public safety. It means investing in infrastructure. It means investing in essential services. It doesn't mean that we're a bank filled with cash deposited by the hard-earned money of taxpayers. So when we submit and invest, it has to be for a public purpose. So I'm absolutely willing to do this $2 million for EWU because I believe in the community center. But I think we need to show that we're spending taxpayer money specifically on that in some tangible way. That's my concern. Thank you.
All right, and we'll go to Councilmember Landon for the first time.
Thank you, Chair. First off, I came into the meeting ready to support the rules substitute as is. I did watch rules, and I certainly understood the logic of putting something below the line when there was a concern by OGC brought up. I guess my question through the chair to Ms. Stefopoulos, if this amendment passes, it's then my understanding that the next 7 days until the council meeting next week, you're going to further refine that review and have potentially more in-depth, solid legal advice for us. And if you still feel strongly about that, I guess the path would be we would then have a floor amendment potentially to put it back below the line if the legal concern still exists. Is that how we see the next week playing out if this amendment does pass?
Through the chair to Councilmember Landon, yes, that's certainly one way to address it. I know the General Counsel has been keeping an eye on the discussions to kind of understand the genesis of this legislation as it goes through, so we can understand in our office kind of what we're tasked with doing and the timeline that we would have to do that. And so that would be an option. I mean, at the end of the day, if we still have a concern, the decision still rests with the council, whether you take that into consideration or decide to proceed forward with funding the project or not.
And through the chair to Ms. Stefopoulos, so say we go a week from now, say the amendment passes, which it seems like it will. you have legal advice saying, no, we still have concerns. Is that a 2/3 vote then that would be required to pass an amendment, a floor amendment on this, or would it just be simple majority at that point?
Through the chair to Councilmember Lane, and no, that the legal advice would not affect the vote requirement for the amendment. Now, the bill itself will have a 2/3 vote at the end, but it wouldn't affect the need for just a simple majority on the amendment.
So through the chair to my committee, my recommendation is just kind of thinking through this. Let's approve this amendment and give OGC a week to see what they come out with. And if there is stronger advice that gives us pause, we could have a floor amendment to move it back below the line at the next council meeting. That's my idea.
Mr. Chair, if I could, I also would recommend that, I don't know if Ms. Miller had brought it with her, but the administration had worked on revisions to all the term sheets, including Edward Waters University, and they did a really good job of building in some findings and some other substantive business terms, joint use agreements, et cetera, the requirement to have those executed to kind of help bolster that public purpose. And so I would recommend that on any of these, but including Edward Waters University, that be of consideration, that you would look at those revised term sheets and an opportunity to approve those that would add that justification to support a public purpose for these projects.
Good. Okay. All right. Before we go to another speaker in the queue for the second time, I'm just going to ask a few questions. And Mr. West, you can stay there just for a second. So first and foremost, what can someone speak to the clawback on this? I think there is one regarding what? Can you give me the details of that?
To the chair. So these dollars in its current state are on a reimbursement basis to EWU at 37.5% of the planning, design, and permitting of the Living Learning Community Center. The clawback that the city currently has is if they fail to complete the entire structure, then we would have to chase down whatever amount we had paid to them through this process.
Okay. Good for that. And then it was in, as Council President Carrico said, and it was initially in the budget for $8 million, and now it's down to $2 million. So I just want to confirm, that's a $6 million delta. Are y'all planning to come back for that $6 million? I think you've already answered this question on the record. I just want to make sure that I'm clear.
Yep, on the record, we do not plan on coming back next year for additional funding from the city.
Okay. You've had enough? I'm just joking. Okay, so and with that, I think the public purpose, colleagues, we've heard it said like 5 times just today. We get to determine that. It's our determination. So whatever OGC says, I don't want to say it doesn't matter, but it's our call. Like, they can advise us with concern, but they do that on every single bill, and we make the final call. For me, I've seen plenty of public purpose exemplified in this compared to especially a lot of other things that we've approved. And I'm not going to say those names because I don't feel like, that would be doing them kind of a disservice. But what I heard from Mr. West today when we met, the track and field, or the track and the walking path, open to the public, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The conference center, open to the public?
Yes, sir.
Correct? Okay. There was a few more on the list, but I'm not going to belabor this because we have other speakers in the queue. But I don't see any further justification that we really need to go forward with if that's kind of the bar. We have to determine it. I'm comfortable with that. So for me, that's sort of where I'm at right now. As far as bringing the money above the line, I'm comfortable doing that at this stage in the game. So with that, we'll go to the next speakers. Councilmember Arias for the second time on the bill. Councilmember Salem, are you on the amendment still? Yes. Okay, go ahead. You're recognized.
I just wanted to clarify that comment about the track. The UNF, the EWU Division 2 is being held at UNF. It's not being held at EWU. My phone is blowing up, so I just wanted to clarify that. You may have just misspoken, but we are not funding the construction of a track at EWU. There may be a walking track that you may be funding, but the track meet itself and that track event is being held at UNF. I just wanted to clarify that.
Okay.
Because I don't know how that came up or why it came up, but it's a little disturbing to me.
Got it. Okay. And I think Councilmember Arias, did you want to speak to that, or? Okay.
Dr. West, if you don't mind, through the chair, if you don't mind, just talk about the different phases of this project. You have 3 phases, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, and the track and field component, that's phase 3, if I'm not mistaken.
That will start next year and it'll be done by September or December of 2027.
Okay, so this $2 million is for the design of the community center, some of the dorms as well too. Does it have design of the track and field as well too in there?
We anticipated that it would.
Okay, so so the point is, because initially we had 2.675, that encompassed the entire design. We just removed $675,000. So I'm assuming the design component is going to be limited to primarily the build out of the buildings. It's why I'm asking you this question.
Right.
So to kind of, put everybody in a good position is, I know the track part is a little bit somewhat of a touchy topic for a lot of people, but I don't see this $2 million going towards anything of that nature. It's really going to go towards the community center. The track and field component of it, you are the host. That is a fact. Yes. It's a Division II school. UNF cannot host that. All right? However, UNF is housing it. That's the difference. All right? So in order for you guys to continue doing this, in the future, I'm just for my recollection, once you do get a track, let's say in 3 years and 10 years and 30 years, I don't really care when, do you foresee yourself now being the new host and facilitator of this event, or do you think it'll still be the same partnership you have with UNF where you host it and they house it?
No, we plan on building this track regardless by the end of 2027, and we do plan on hosting the event on our campus. It is a Division II NCAA event. We are a 1 year into our NCAA membership. The NCAA Division II website lists the 2 co-sponsors as EWU and Visit Jacksonville. So we do intend on having that track built in time for that event and hosting it at Edward Waters University.
Okay, well, thank you. All right, no questions. I am on the bill, though.
Okay, go ahead and get back on the. All right, got it. Councilmember Lannon, you're recognized. Is this for the $2 million, or just further clarification?
This is just to follow up on Councilmember Arias. It is confusing because just to set the record straight, what's happening in May 2028? We have gotten the Division II Track and Field Championship. Great for Jacksonville. Edward Waters is the host institution, and the University of North Florida is the host site. So that's why there's been confusion between Edward Waters versus UNF. But again, I don't want to diminish that. It's a great thing. Edward Waters host institution, and the actual events will be at UNF in May 2028. Thank you.
All right. So we're going to go ahead and take this vote verbally first, and if there's any close counts or whatever, we'll take a vote by hand. So all in favor of the Carrico amendment to bring the $2 million above the line signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. The amendment carries. So now, do we need a motion on the substitute? All right, we have a motion and a second on the substitute as amended. Is there any discussion on that, or we kind of covered it all? Okay, on the substitute? Okay, Councilmember Arias, you're recognized.
Through the Chair, Mr. Stephanopoulos, is this going to be considered now a finance substitute?
So through the chair to Councilmember Arias, so that would be my question: is if the committee wants to roll that in to the rules substitute, then I would file it as the Finance Committee's second substitute, because we had filed one from last cycle, and we would file that for this cycle. The other thing I just wanted to remind the committee of is that administration has offered some revisions to the term sheets. Those would need to be considered as part of an amendment if the committee wants to take those up, to be appended to the legislation that would incorporate those revised terms that were negotiated by the administration. Ms. Miller is here to address those, and I don't know if you have copies of those. She may have those with her, but to the extent the committee wanted to consider those, this would be the opportunity to do that.
Okay, can we do that after we pass the new finance substitute as an additional amendment?
Yes, you could do it as an additional amendment.
Okay, Councilmember Diamond, you're recognized. Nope, not on the bill yet. Okay. On the bill. Okay, all in favor of the finance rules substitute as amended signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, the substitute carries.
Move the finance substitute as amended.
I think it's just the bill, right?
Move the bill as...
Yes, so if I could roll that amendment
yeah, go ahead and roll that as a finance substitute, so there's no
move
confusion.
the substitute, move the what is now the finance substitute, or move the bill as substituted.
Got it. Okay, motion. We have a second from Councilmember Arias. Now we'll go through the queue. Councilmember Diamond, you're on the bill. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Look, this is a bill filled with really awesome stuff. Just don't think we have the money for it. On my drive here today, I'm still seeing trash on the side of the highway. I'm still seeing massive traffic in Jacksonville. I still see potholes. I see streets that need to be resurfaced. There are so many problems in the city right now, and it seems like this council and this administration can't wait to spend money as fast as they possibly can. So $15 million, I think it's nuts to be spending it right now. I think we should just keep it in contingency and spend it next year to deal with the obvious structural deficit that the council auditors keep telling us we're going to have. Thank you.
All right, Councilmember Arias, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To kind of go off of what my colleague just mentioned, I do agree with him. There's a lot of other needs in our community, but this is also a major need in our community. We're talking about workforce education. I mean, we can't just focus on one thing. You know, there's a plethora of things to tackle, and this is $15 million out of a $2 billion budget. These are peanuts in comparison. So I think we're doing the right thing here by taking care of everything in our community, not just potholes. But I do agree with him. We need to put more money in the budget next year for potholes and road infrastructure improvements. Nevertheless, I will talk about what I saw yesterday at Rules, and I want to say that I commend Councilmember Freeman for his efforts and seeing it to the finish line yesterday, because from the beginning I said I wanted to do something good with this bill. And when I held 3 public notice meetings, I've had multiple community meetings outside of City Hall. And we had the apprenticeship group come up, and at the time I was just like, I don't know what to do. I mean, there's just a lot of moving parts. And so because of all the work that we've all put into this, we deferred this twice. I didn't want to do it, but I think sometimes you have to put your ego to the side and just say, you know what, let just the courts take action and see what happens. And we've had great conversations, a little bit longer than I expected, but I think we brought this home to a good place. We're looking at $675,000 for the apprenticeship program, and I hope that we find more money for them next year as well, too, or maybe at some point, whatever the case is. We have NEFBA also for workforce development. We have FSCJ, which they're doing a tremendous job. Their program, they're expanding, and they need more space. We have UNF, and then obviously an EWU, and now Workforce Industrial Training Center. So overall, while it's a lot of moving parts and a lot of term sheets and a lot of money, I think we all should feel proud about what we've accomplished here, because this is something that really doesn't happen quite often, and you guys are part of history. So I just want to thank everybody in Rules. Thank Mr. Freeman, most importantly, for while I didn't want to, we deferred it twice because of you, but we brought home an even better product. So thank you for that. If anybody has any questions, like I said, Ms. Miller's right there, because she's been really spearheading this from OGC side and working with all these entities. We've all put so much work and effort into this, so this is a win for everybody here. Thank you.
All right, Councilmember Howland, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The reason this bill has taken so long and been deferred and has so many changes is because it's big, it's cumbersome, and there's dissimilar entities involved. There's only one other bill that we deal with on a regular basis that's big, cumbersome, with dissimilar entities, and that's the budget bill in this year, 2025-0504. And that takes months to get through. That's why this one has taken so long. And at various times, I've not wanted to support it. At various times, I have. I will end up supporting it in its form because I think it's gotten better through that rigorous and cumbersome process. I'm always supportive of the workforce development initiatives, always have been. I'm supportive of the Edward Waters investment now because we've scaled it back and put additional stipulations on it. And I'm supportive of the UNF investment because we did a change that I want to talk about in particular, and that is that last Finance Committee, we took $3 million from TDC and we put it towards this bill, leaving $3 million available. And I have now introduced a bill, 2025-0873, to put that $3 million that was left available to where I think the biggest public purpose is, and that's responsible budgeting to address our $67 million budget deficit next year. And in creating that, you can see it's item number 19 on your agenda here. In creating 2025-0873, we talked about it last week, 2 weeks ago during the budget hearing. I think Councilman Diamond, Councilman Salem, and I, and Councilman Lannon were all thinking, how could we put that $3 million, say from TDC, towards the future budget deficit? We talked about putting it towards Budget Stabilization Fund, but I don't have that much faith that the Budget Stabilization Fund will remain by next year. So what we are doing is putting it towards previously obligated completion grant next year. And that grant that I chose in particular was the RISE Doro grant that's expected to be paid for $3 million. So what, in effect, the bill 2025-0873, which is inextricably linked to this one and my reason for supporting it, what it will do is it'll reduce our budget deficit, our expected budget deficit next year by $3 million, from $67 million to $64 million. And in that way, I feel good that we're being good stewards of taxpayer dollars, which is really our main public purpose. So I'll be voting yes. Thanks.
All right, Councilwoman Pittman, you're recognized.
Thank you. I still want to go back to the question that I had posed.
Yes, ma'am.
One, I wanted to ask Mary, how long has it been since we've had the legislation or policy in place? And did one or two things happen that caused the legislation where we can't give funding up front? I mean, I noticed we do it for, I was trying to ask on the JSEP program, the Economic Development Program. I just kind of want a little bit more information, because I just feel like just because we've done this, council members, for many, many years, why can't we make sure? Because a lot of times organizations or colleges can get money when they have money to leverage. You know what I'm saying? And then they're able to upfront the money, and then other organizations can come help. And I don't know if I can ask any of them as well. Do they have, if all of you can, I just want to know, do you have the money up front, or are you getting a line of credit, or how are you funding some of these programs? Mr. Coleman, could you please come up, please?
And are you planning to ask, you want all the organizations that are here?
I just want to know if they
Okay, that's fine. I just want to give them kind of a heads
either
up.
2 or 3,
Okay,
maybe one of the colleges. I'm just curious, who has that now?
Okay.
Okay.
James Coleman, Workforce Industrial Training, address on file. Currently, my program, basically, I'm funding everything out of my own personal 401k. We are in a situation now that we do have clients that come up that need training to help students get towards jobs. Since the ONSAT is trying to get the programming funding for this particular funding, we found ourselves in a situation where we are turning away students now that we had expected to be in the program and already trained to be ready for the rush season now for the holidays. So some of those students that we would have had a chance to train, waiting on those dollars for every time that we were deferred to get to this point. And it's still a blessing that for any dollars that comes, for us personally as a smaller entity surrounded by these giants, it has hurt us seriously. So any funding up front will give us that support to get the consumable goods and materials we need to support the additional students that we plan on taking on.
Thank you. Ms. Hood, would you come up and same question?
Who did you call?
From EWU.
Mr. West.
Mr. West.
Through the chair. So we do not have the liquid capital for the $2 million sitting in our account that we can just start spending. So that's the reason for the investment from the city. The plan would be, what we anticipated would be kind of a project completion invoice model. We've done that in the past through the city funding. And then we also have a term sheet that we're currently evaluating that we've been offered from the HBCU Capital Finance Program for $40 million to complete the construction phases of all these projects.
Thank you. Anyone from UNF? Thank you.
Through the chair, yes, Nick Morrow, Director of Athletics, UNF. Through the chair, yes, we're comfortable with the money. We got to remember this is a match for our project, and so we do have funds put aside at this point to accomplish this task up front.
Okay, and is it NEFCA? What, Northeast?
FBA and I think FSEJ are the last ones.
Anyone from the?
Hi, good afternoon. Christina Thomas from NEFBA. Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, I wanted to know if you all have funding up front.
We
to
do.
Start to, okay.
Yes, we do.
Okay, thank you. And what other organization is out there?
FSEJ coming
Thank
down.
you.
Taylor Mejia Roberts, FSCJ. Through the chair to Councilwoman Pittman, we won't be fronting money. It'll be a match so that the city will put in funding for the purchase of a building, and FSCJ is covering the remainder of the cost of the purchase, likely to be very similar to the amount the city is putting in.
Okay,
Thank
you. All right, so I guess my point is you got big fish and little fish, right? And so little fish can provide services, and I'm not just talking about Mr. Coleman, but even the nonprofits that we fund, you know, through CDBG, all of that. Those organizations don't have that up front. But as I think Mary said, that, you know, they have to ask for that. But I think we need to make that across the board, you know, fair. Most of the organizations that receive money from the city, they have a track record. Now, if something happened in the past 5 years ago, 10 years ago, why do we have to be handcuffed with that? And just like y'all have clawbacks, you know, if they do something wrong or they don't spend the money appropriately, then you make sure it's done. And so I'd like to have more discussion about that. Perhaps we need to have a community meeting of some sort and invite some of the people to share, and even a meeting with us at some point in time, because I think there's an issue that we're looking over, and we need to do it now. And some of you have already served on those committees, and you know what's happening. So since we make the decisions, why can't we change the policies that's needed to make this work?
Right.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. We'll go to Councilmember Lannon. You're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. I just really got in the queue just to make sure I understand if we need to make an amendment for these term sheets now, if that's where
we're going to vote
process.
on. Have we even?
Because we're on the bill now.
Through the chair to Councilmember Lannon, if the committee was inclined to want to take up and address the revised term sheets with the changes that are being proposed by the administration through negotiations with each entity, now would be the time. Because they have to be, the only way they get appended to the legislation is if there's an amendment, whether it's by the committee or on the floor of council.
So I was going to go through the queue for everyone who wanted to speak to the bill, and then we'll absolutely come back to those. Last speaker is Councilmember Arias.
All right, thank you, Chair. Through the chair to Ms. Pittman, I hear what you're saying. So all the 5 entities right now that are receiving funds, there's only one that's really going to be used for operational dollars. The rest are capital dollars. So Workforce Industrial Training Center is the only one. If you're talking about giving them dollars up front, we've done that in the past for a whole bunch of other people, and I think the threshold is like 25%. So as a policy decision, is that your inclination to propose to give them an upfront? If that's the case, it may change the term sheets a little bit for them. But if you're looking at 25% and they're at $325,000 for their allotment, you're looking at $81,250. Is that your inclination? Yeah, absolutely. Do you want to propose that, and we'll second it if that's the case?
I do, and I'm going to tell you all the reason why. Just the small organizations that I've worked with, even through the JSEP program, they had capital funds that they could use because a lot of them didn't have money to upfront. And so I think we need to look at that because, again, we're comparing with individuals or organizations that have money, whether it's capital or whether it's operational. It's all needed, right? They need the money. So I'm asking, yes, I'm making an amendment for them to get that 25%.
I'll second that if that's the case. Thank you.
So that's technically, Ms. Faubus, it's not really it's just a separate amendment to the bill that we would roll up into the finance substitute, correct?
Yes, that is correct, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Do you want to? Is everyone clear on the Ms. Stefopoulos, can you restate the motion for us? Thank you.
Yes, my understanding of the amendment is that Ms. Pittman would like to revise the term sheet for workforce industrial training to provide that they would receive 25% of their funds up front, which amounts to $81,250.
Okay. Is everyone clear?
I believe Mr. Peterson has something.
Just to clarify, in that in order to receive future, which would be reimbursement after that $81,000, they have to show support that they spent the 81,250 in a proper manner, and then everything from that point forward is reimbursement.
Yes, sir.
And we would also include the appropriate waiver of the code in the bill that would require that upfront would necessitate.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you.
I guess we don't need to ask the applicant if he'll be okay with that. I think he would be just fine with that. Yes, sir? Okay, good. All right, so no speakers in the queue. All in favor of the Pittman amendment, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The amendment carries. So now we will roll that up into the finance substitute, Ms. Tefopoulos. And with that, we'll go ahead and pause on the finance substitute and the bill, and we'll go ahead and go into the term sheets. So, Ms. Miller, are you the one who's going to kind of walk us through what we are looking at here? Okay. Go ahead. The floor is yours, and then committee members, if you have questions, just hop in the queue. And then I guess the motion will be to adopt all of these as we go through them?
Yes, Mr. Chair. So after Ms. Miller has an opportunity to kind of brief the committee on what the changes are, if you're amenable to those changes, then you could move a floor amendment or move an amendment to attach the revised term sheets to the legislation, and then it would supplant what has traveled with the bill.
Okay, got it. So let's do it like this. Ms. Miller, we're going to kind of go one term sheet at a time, get questions answered on that term sheet, go to the next one, same thing, and then we'll do one amendment on all of them as a whole. Councilmember Salem, did you have a question before we start? Go ahead.
My question is, why can't Ms. Miller work with Mary and put these together? And if they're comfortable, why do we have to go through these one at a time?
Great question.
Through the chair to Councilmember Salem. So Ms. Miller did work with OGC to address these changes that are reflected in these term sheets. I think the idea was to advise the committee on what the changes were so you understood what you were voting on if you approved them.
Do the changes reflect the policy that we've discussed at the dais here?
What policy would that be?
Well, I mean,
all the amendments,
all the amendments, discussion that we've had.
These are these are additional changes to the business terms that were negotiated by the administration. So they're not just what this committee has discussed.
We've not seen these yet.
You saw some of them yesterday in rules, but they weren't taken up ultimately. So I think that's why the chair wants to allow Ms. Miller to go through them so that you don't have to sit and read each word for word.
Okay.
I think.
Thank you, Chair.
No, it was a good question. And Ms. Miller, obviously, we don't want to go line by line by line on these. Just give us kind of what blanks were filled in and any kind of concerning points. So first and foremost, let's go to the workforce industrial training, just because that was the top of my stack here. So committee members, pull that one up. It's got the staple, and it is 5 pages. And at the top, it says workforce industrial training. So Ms. Miller,
yes,
what did you change on this?
Carla Miller, Mayor's Office, and all of these are fine-tuning what was essentially passed by Finance 2 weeks ago. And so we took what Finance passed 2 weeks ago on the term sheets, and we took it and roundtabled it with the Finance Director, Grants, OED, Council Auditor, and OGC. And we got everyone at the table and went line by line to make sure that the public was protected and that we didn't miss any details. So what you see in the Boost worksheet in front of you, anything that's new is underlined. So basically, you're paying in this particular term sheet per successful student, $3,200 per successful student, but the successful student criteria was not defined. So what you see being underlined is a lot of detail on exactly how we're going to determine whether or not they have graduated as a successful student. So we needed that to clarify that. If you see on page 4, additional grant requirements, basically what this does is, and this was a recommendation from Finance and Grants, that any requirements of Chapter 118, Parts 1 through 5 that apply to other grants also apply. Those are all the safeguards for public service grants. And so that we would be able to utilize these in the negotiation of the actual contract. Yeah, that's basically it. That was a key point that Grants wanted in there. So this basically tightens up what their product is and also makes them comply with other similar grants in the city.
Okay. Any questions from committee members on workforce industrial training? Seeing none, let's go to the next one. We have FSCJ.
Okay, that's an easy one. If you take a look at that, again, the query was that the scope was not adequately defined. So you see in number 2 and 3 that basically FSCJ has elaborated on exactly what they're going to be doing. And of course, this also clarifies the public purpose too at the same time. So you see that in 2 and 3. And then number 7 on page 2, recommendation from OGC that instead of giving the money to the junior college, that the grant funds go to an escrow agent, which is a better legal practice. And they agreed to that. And last but not least, we have in number 12 that there will be a more extensive use agreement detailing the city's use rights. And this is to establish more fully the public purpose. So we would hammer out the details of, instead of just saying the city can use the space, it would be you can use it upon 2-week notice, you can use it 10 times a year. In other words, we can get those details in a use agreement. So we wanted to have that ability to do that later on. And that's FSCJ.
Okay, we're seeing no questions on FSCJ. Next, we will go to University of North Florida.
University of North Florida. Take a look at the third bullet point. Basically, this is technically from OGC a better way to draft the draw request on a reimbursement basis. Just legalese on that one. The scope of work is down a little bit further. Again, we needed a little bit more scope of work to establish the public purpose. And the second page, let's see, anything important here? It's all important. Again, a use agreement detailing the city's use rights with UNF so that we, again, can more fully establish the public purpose. And then we also added, when it was applicable in all of these, that UNF shall use good faith efforts to enter into contracts with city certified JSEBs to provide materials and services for the projects. That's UNF.
Okay, and next we'll go to NEFBA, Northeast Florida Builders Association.
Okay, NEFBA. These actually, the underline on the first page is just a change in the legal wording because they have already started the project, so the legal wording had to accommodate that. You can see the fourth one from the bottom, that they can't use any of the money for furniture, fixtures, or equipment, but they can use it for communication and technology fixtures that are integral to the building. Second page. Okay, you see kind of in the middle that it's all underlined. That basically really elaborates on the purpose of what they're going to be doing in that building on workforce development, and it adds more details on that. Down at the bottom, they're going to enter also into a use agreement that we can hammer out all the details on the city's use of that to establish the public purpose. And lastly, upon completion of the project, NEFBA shall report on the use of city-certified JSEBs that provided materials or services. That's NEFBA.
Okay, no speakers in the queue. Last but not least, Ms. Pittman. Yes, ma'am, you're recognized.
I know we talked about giving operationals for WIT. I know Ms. Wesley spoke about they didn't have the funding up front for the capital piece. So I want to know if we can just go back and look at that. Mr. Wesley, you did say y'all did not have those funds. Is that correct? So is there any way that we can work with them to get 25% as well? I'm just asking the question. I know Councilman Raul brought it up. There was a difference. One was operational and one was capital, but he did stand there and said that they did not have that up front.
Okay. Ms. Fabulous, yeah, go ahead.
To the chair, so I think I would let Ms. Miller address the EWU term sheet. She hasn't done that yet, but if that's an additional change the committee would like to make, then that's
yes, ma'am.
To the will of the committee. But it would need to be part of an amendment when the time comes after Ms. Miller's had an opportunity to explain.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, so yeah, we'll go ahead and go through the term sheet for EWU, and if Ms. Pittman wants to make a motion, she certainly can. Go ahead, Ms. Miller.
EWU, again, third bullet point, basically describes the outreach of the new community conference center, and that the community conference center will also serve as a hurricane emergency shelter for the community, which was important to our group that it served a public purpose. And, you know, certainly the hurricane emergency center, we wanted more detail in here that would show it in the term sheet that there was a public purpose. Next page. This talks about the city funding verified expenses on a reimbursement pro rata at 37.5 basis, which is something that the Finance Committee took up 2 weeks ago and had a discussion about. And then the fifth one down there, all funds dispersed shall be subject to a 10-year clawback, is basically reworded from a legal standpoint, but it's the same concept as you passed 2 weeks ago. Next, we underlined one is, again, what we would be doing with each one of these is a use agreement, elaborating on the public purpose and the city use of all of the facilities, and negotiating that later on to make sure that the public purpose is valid. Further down, language identifying that the city's total contribution towards planning, design, and permitting shall not exceed 37.5% of the total cost of the expenses, which is something that was also discussed in finance. That was just reworded by OGC. And again, we have the JSEB aspect in here, that they would enter into contracts with city certified JSEBs if possible. And those terms for all of these have been agreed to by the parties.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Lannon, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. Through the chair, so I'm thinking I may be looking at the pre-rules substitute version, because the fourth point here has 2.675, and I think it should be 2 million as a result of the rules substitute yesterday.
Yes, they didn't have that information when they were negotiating these revised term sheets. So obviously, based on the actions that were taken in rules as approved by the Finance Committee today, we would be amending that term. The final product would reflect $2 million.
Through the chair, thank you, Ms. Sofopoulos, and the other thing, the JSEB dollar amounts need to be adjusted as well.
Yes,
so
we would adjust everything accordingly based on the change to the overall dollar amount to the project.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Councilmember Salem, you're recognized. And then we'll go.
I was going to raise the same point.
Ms. Pittman, you're recognized.
To make a motion to add the 25% to Edward Waters College. Thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to give 25%. Is that what I heard? 25% up front to Edward Waters University. All right. Is there anyone on the... Okay, Councilmember Lannon, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. And through the chair, my understanding was if you look at the back of the term sheet, the third part discusses the reimbursement process, and I thought that was previously worked out at a different committee meeting and had been agreed upon by the university as well. So really just a point of discussion. I thought that had been a settled issue, and I think most capital projects, I don't think it's often, and through the chair, I'll let the auditors chime in. The stadium, right? We started this meeting with a briefing on the stadium. I don't think it's common for capital projects that we give money up front, especially when it's going to be a matching type project.
Through the chair to Councilmember Lannon, you're correct on both of your statements that we don't usually advance on capital projects, and then also this was a terms that were agreed to, I believe, at the NCSPHS meeting 2 weeks ago.
So through the chair of the committee, I'm inclined to say no to this amendment since it already got worked out. And again, it would be setting kind of a new precedent on fronting money for capital projects that have both a city and a private portion of.
Okay. And Mr. Peterson, did you want to chime in to clarify something before I go to Ms. Pittman?
Through the chair, I just was going to say if you were inclined to go down the advance route, I think a work performed in an invoiced basis would be a better approach for the city, whereby we're not out any dollars. They do the work. They submit their invoices to the city. We review them, and I say we, Public Works reviews them to make sure they're appropriate, and then we pay them, they pay their contractor. And to get any future dollars, they then have to show that they paid their prior bills to get new dollars. That protects the city better than an advance.
I agree with that because, again, You still have to have that up front. And would that help with what you're doing, Ms. Wesley? Okay, thank you.
All right, so do we need to amend the motion to include what Mr. Peterson just said?
Yes, that would be an amendment to the amendment.
Okay, Ms. Pittman, do you want to?
An amendment to what Mr. Peterson said.
Okay, yeah, Mr. Peterson, can you go ahead and explain the amendment to the amendment?
Sure, through the chair to the committee. So occasionally, to Mr. Lano is absolutely correct. We very rarely, I actually can't think of an instance where we've advanced dollars for a capital project. However, there are occasions where the city will reimburse the entity or pay the entity on a work performed and invoice basis. So they go and hire a design professional. That professional submits a $50,000 invoice to Edward Waters. They will then in turn submit a request to the city for the $50,000. Actually, on this one, it'd be 37.5% of the $50,000. Public Works would review that. They'd have the ability to go out and look at all the documents or work that was related to that $50,000. We then would cut them a check for the portion to Edward Waters. They would then turn and pay their contractor, design professional. Then the next time they wanted money, they had to show that they've submitted a payment to their contractor so that there's no outstanding liens, if you will, contractor liens against Edward Waters for this project. And that's how it would continue to roll until they'd gotten through the $2 million.
Okay, excellent. Councilmember Howland, I know you kind of wanted that clarification, so you have the floor.
Yeah, so thank you, Mr. Chair. So that's a Lanin amendment to a Pittman amendment, right?
Ms. Pittman actually made the amendment to the amendment.
So that means that then Ms. Pittman's amendment of giving EWU 25% up front is no longer valid. It's instead we're controlling them, allowing them to have more favorable cash terms through Mr. Lanin's amendment to the amendment.
Correct. So you would be taking up and voting on the amendment to the amendment, and then as you're used to, Council Vice President Howland, you would move the amendment as amended and vote on that. And if it's approved, then that would be the basis on which this would get paid, as opposed to the 25% up front.
Okay, then if I can still ask a question of Ms. Pittman through the chair. I understood the reasoning for upfront for workforce industrial training because that was all operational costs. Right. They need it. Understand that they need it to get going. I don't understand it for Edward Waters. I don't understand that it would be in any financial situation where they can't get going.
Mr. Wesley, would you come up, please? Because the reason why I asked that question, because I wanted you all to hear if they needed funding or not. The rest of the organizations that came up, they said they already had funding. He said that they did not. So can you clarify that for me?
Through the chair, that is correct, Ms. Pittman.
I'm sorry?
Through the chair, that is correct.
Okay.
We do not have the liquid capital in an account anywhere to begin the design portion of this project.
Okay. And if we go by what Mr. Peterson said, is that the city will be able to make sure that work is done. Is that correct? Okay, so that's the only reason why I'm asking. There's a difference, as I mentioned, between operational and capital. They don't have it.
Understood. Thank you.
And let me just take an opportunity here to, I guess, bring in the auditors. And I think, though, Mr. West, don't go anywhere because I think you might have some additional questions. Ms. Taylor, you go ahead and jump in and see if there's any additional clarification. Then I have a point, too, if you don't cover it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted clarification for the committee because it's been expressed at prior meetings and today that there's a line of credit. So as soon as they spend those dollars and get reimbursed, they can pay down that line of credit to where there should not be an issue from a cash standpoint. So that's where I just wanted to get clarification to make sure that the body has all the facts correct before you vote.
Right, and that was going to be my point, was because when I met with Mr. West, it was y'all had secured $40 million from a capital source, so you do have that funding, not liquid, but you do have that funding.
And is that for a particular project as well?
All right, let me get his answer first.
Yeah, so, Mr. Chairman, that is a term sheet that we are currently assessing. Likely will not see any cash from that until January, February, and we need to get going on the project now from a design planning standpoint. So that's what the $2 million investment is that we're asking for from the city.
Okay, understood. And something's going on with the mics up there, so I don't know if we can get that fixed. But yeah, okay, we're going to go back through the queue, so you just sit tight. And I guess we are on the amendment to the amendment. Ms. Stavropoulos, did you have something that you needed to add before we go through?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that it will probably be January or February before the city's dollars are available to the project, because we still have to go through and finalize and execute a contract with any of these entities.
Okay, understood. Councilmember Salem, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. Through the chair to OGC, does the Lane amendment change the clawback provisions in any way?
So Ms. Pittman made the amendment to her own amendment, and so if it's approved, it doesn't change the clawback. It just changes that we won't be upfronting the 25% as she originally proposed.
I understand.
It would be done that way, but it doesn't affect the clawbacks otherwise.
The method of the invoices coming over and us paying them does not change the clawback.
Correct.
Okay, just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
All right, Councilmember Arias, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, the reason why I talked about Workforce Industrial Training Center being operational, that's exactly it. We don't do this for capital. However, the way I see it is as Ms. Pittman's second amendment, her amendment, not Lanen's amendment, just for the record, it's essentially a mini line of credit. You know, they're getting an invoice, they're giving it to us, we're vetting it, we're giving them the money, and they're paying it. And then they continue on. So I think this is a fair route to go, especially for a project of this size. So I'm in support of Ms. Pittman's amendment. Thank you.
All right, Councilmember Howland, you're recognized. Are you on the Lane amendment?
I am, yeah. I am.
I'm just kidding.
And,
Yeah, go ahead.
With all due respect, I'm going to have to be no on the amendment or the amendment to the amendment, simply because I made a statement earlier that I don't believe we should be a bank filled with cash deposited by the hard-earned money of taxpayers, and that's essentially by offering this letter of credit what we're doing. So I'm just going to be no. That doesn't mean I'm not going to be yes on the rest of the bill, but I'm no on this financing component. Thanks.
Okay, all right. Ms. Pittman, you are the last speaker in the queue, and you're recognized.
This is my last hurrah to ask, and I'll share with you, with working with the small businesses in the corridor, and a lot of those businesses, which again is around EWU, don't always have the money. I don't know if the line of credit that you have is for this particular piece or is it for another piece, but I guess I'm looking at the possibilities in the neighborhoods that's needed. Right? And if EWU can get started quicker with what we have, and again, just because we've done it a certain way doesn't mean we always have to. And the taxpayers are the ones that are going to be benefiting from these projects. So I just want you all to consider, I know some of you may be a no now, but I think we have protection in places that we can consider to say a yes. And you all know I don't really ask for things that I don't think that an organization that I can believe in, that I believe in and can do it. But sometimes people need a little help, just a little bit. You know what I mean? So please consider and please vote on the amendment to the amendment.
Okay, and with that, Mr. West, you can go ahead and have a seat. Thank you. And we have no other speakers in the queue, so we're going to do a hand-raised vote on this. So all in favor of the amendment to the amendment signify by raising your hand. All right, the amendment carries.
Yeah, we'll do that. And now the amendment. Yeah.
Right.
I'm a yes on the amendment to the amendment.
Okay.
Now you'll call for a motion on the amendment as amended.
Right, so we're going to, do we have a motion on the amendment as amended? Second, yes. All right, we have a motion and a second on the amendment as amended, and we'll go ahead and, okay, we'll do another hand vote. All in favor of the amendment as amended, signify by raising your hand. Everybody good? Okay. We got a count. We're good. All right, all opposed? 2, 3, what are you doing, man?
Sorry, I'm excited.
All right, the amendment, you can lower your hand. All right, it passes. Okay, so roll that back up into the finance substitute.
Mr. Chair, was anyone inclined to move the revised term sheets as explained by Ms. Miller? I don't know if Mr. Arias wanted to address that.
We do have other things on the agenda, Mr. Arias, so if...
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If you don't
Yeah,
mind
go ahead.
giving me
Go
a
ahead.
Quick 30 seconds.
Sure.
Through the chair to Ms. Miller and to FSCJ. I know that we're changing things up and doing an escrow type of a fund distribution. So all I'm asking in this case, being that we have the $5 million specifically for this use for the building, if there are any additional costs associated to this escrow that we have identified that we want to add into it, will the city incur the cost or will FCJ incur the cost? Because I don't want them to incur any costs that we're imposing on them, is what I'm trying to get to. So is there a way that we could take care of the cost for the escrow?
Through the chair, that was discussed yesterday with FSCJ. Yes, we could pick up the escrow cost, and I would imagine that we could negotiate which escrow agent is used to avoid that cost. That would be the first thing, so nobody pays the cost. But if someone has to pay it, it's to our advantage. It's a safeguard for us that we should pay for it.
Thank you so much, Ms. Miller. Just wanted to have it on the record. All right?
Okay.
I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, great. So there doesn't need to be an amendment for that. It just they can change it before next Tuesday, or what?
So I think that there's probably sufficient dollars that if the administration needed to TD something to cover that, and they're saying that they could, you wouldn't have to change anything in the term sheet. Now, if they find that there's a different issue and that they could bring it back as a floor amendment, but to the extent that these are revised term sheets, if you want them to be included in the legislation, then a committee member would need to move an amendment to attach the revised term sheets.
Okay, do we have a motion on the revised term sheets? All right, we have a motion and a second on the term sheets as revised. Okay, Mr. Peterson, go ahead. Are you on this?
Yes, sir. Through the chair, just would ask for allowance for myself and Ms. Stefopoulos, because we just saw these term sheets this morning, if we catch any inconsistencies, to be able to just make those minor corrections for the filed version.
Right, yep, and that was going to be my kind of thought after we did all that. So we have no speakers in the queue. All in favor of the amendment to the revised term sheet signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The amendment carries. Ms. Stefopoulos, please roll up that into the finance substitute. So with that, we need a motion on the bill.
Move the bill as substituted.
Second.
All right, motion and a second on the bill as substituted. No speakers in the queue. Open the ballot. Record your vote.
Seven yeas, one nay.
By your action, you've approved 2025-781 as substituted. All right. I just want to say, good work, Councilmember Arias. That was very good. And what I liked most about this bill was, it's got good organizations in it, but ultimately, you helped the rest of this body accomplish a lot of our goals. And that's what is a good thing. That's what this is about. You didn't just put it all towards things that you wanted to do. It took a new form the whole way through the process, and now we have another bill stemming off of it from Council Vice President Howland, 2025-873, which I'm going to be supporting that. And I wanted to recognize that. I think that's important to have one bill do so much good for so many of your colleagues. So appreciate your work on that. All right, item number 6. Councilmember Freeman, is this what I thought you were here for the other one, man. We could have taken you up. All right, looking for a motion, 2025-834. All right, we have a motion and a second on the bill. We have no speakers in the queue. Councilmember Freeman, anything, or questions only? Questions only. Open the ballot, record your vote. I would have.
Seven yeas, zero nays.
By your action, you've approved 2025-834. Councilmember Freeman, thank you for joining us. Next time we'll see you at LEZ later. All right, item number 7, 2025-835. No, we're going to make him wait too. No, I'm just kidding. All right, we'll go ahead and move to last action item, page 13 of 14, item number 27, 2025-882. Looking for a motion on the emergency. All right, we have a motion and a second on the emergency. All in favor of the emergency signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The emergency carries. All right, we have a motion and a second on the bill as an emergency. Any discussion? Seeing none, open the ballot, record your vote.
7 yeas, 0 nays.
By your action, you have approved 2025-882 as an emergency. Councilmember Gaffney, thanks for joining us. Yeah, you want to say anything? Are you good? All right, no problem. Now, we'll go back to, we did 6, we'll do number 7. Item number 2025-835. Motion and second on the amendment. Could someone please explain the amendment?
Through the chair of the committee, the amendment corrects the Scribners and places a revised license agreement on file to correct the renewal options to 2 one-year periods, and then clarify the license fee, which would be the initial license fee plus CPI for the second and the third year. Strike conflicting language regarding the city's capital maintenance repair obligations, as the city is responsible for all capital repairs out at the facility, and then revise the fire and casualty language to strike any references to a building, as this entity will not be occupying a building, only a parking lot, and then clarify the licensor's rights as there's conflicting language.
Okay, thank you so much for that explanation. We have no speakers in the queue. All in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The amendment carries.
Move the bill as amended.
We have a motion and a second on the bill as amended. Seeing no one in the queue, open the ballot, record your vote.
Seven yeas, 0 nays.
By your action, you've approved 2025-835 as amended. Item number 8, 2025-836. Looking for a motion on the amendment. All right, we have a motion and a second on the amendment. Can someone please explain the amendment?
Through the chair of the committee, the amendment would include a waiver of section 780.335 of the ordinance code to allow this applicant to receive this property tax exemption. This section of the code requires, once they have submitted for a property tax exemption, to complete the work within a 2-year period. Due to the financing and getting the DPRP approval through DIA, they were unable to meet that. So in order for them to receive, we need a waiver and then correcting Scribners.
All right. All in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The amendment carries.
The bill is amended.
Motion and second on the bill as amended. Councilmember Diamond, you're recognized.
Thank you to the chair to Philip. Just want to double check. This one isn't any out-of-pocket cash from the city, correct? That's what my notes say.
Through the chair to Councilmember Diamond, that's correct. They just will not have an increase in their property valuation as a result.
Roger. Thank you.
All right. No other speakers in the queue. Open the ballot. Record your votes.
8 yeas, 0 nays.
By your action, you've approved 2025-836 as amended. Number 9, 2025-837. We have a motion and a second on the bill. No one speaker in the queue. Councilmember Diamond, you're recognized.
It was lovely that the administration did something in my district without telling me. When I saw this, it made me chuckle the first time, and they still haven't. So I'd love to add myself as a co-sponsor. Appreciate it.
Nice. All right. No other speakers in the queue. Open the ballot. Record your votes.
Eight yeas, 0 nays.
All right. By your action, you've approved 2025-837. Item number 10, we've already taken up. Item number 11, 2025-839. Need a motion on the bill? All right, we have a motion and a second on the bill. No speakers in the queue. Open the ballot, record your vote. Is this yours now? Okay, go ahead. Councilmember Diamond.
Hold on, this is the one that's in my district. So now I'm on the hook supporting Jimmy, which is just terrible morning now, afternoon for me. No, I won't. I'll support them both, but I'd like to be as a co-sponsor. Thank you.
All right, good deal. With that, we have no other speakers in the queue. Open the ballot, record your vote.
Eight yeas, 0 nays.
By your action, you've approved 2025-839. Item number 12 is deferred. 2025-841. Item number 13, 2025-842. Looking for a motion on the bill? All right, we have a motion and a second on the bill. One speaker, Councilmember Diamond, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm a no on this. I was a no on this during budget. I was a no on the Jacks Chamber getting their money. I think I was the only no left. And so just consistent across the board on these. I don't think this is the job of the city government to be funding these. Thanks.
All right. Councilmember Arias, you're recognized.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just wanted to kind of give some clarification to everybody up here. This has already been obviously passed in neighborhoods. And this was in the budget, and it was $80,000. And so at the time, we put it below the line because I wanted to make sure that all the right entities received the dollars. And so we included the Hispanic Chamber, which has received dollars in the past from us. We've included now the Black Chamber and also the Asian Chamber as well too. So the 80,000 divided by 3, you're looking at 26,600. These are municipal dues, and so if anybody has any questions, they are here in the audience today. But yeah, that's pretty much it. It was already in the budget. We put it below the line. I'm just moving it now above the line to fund them. Is what it is. Thank you.
Okay, we have no other speakers in the queue. Open the ballot. Record your votes.
Seven yeas, one nay.
By your action, you've approved 2025-842. All right, item 14, 2025-865 is on second reading. 867, 868, 870, all second reading. 871, 873, 874, all on second reading. 875, 876, 877, 878, 879, 880, all on second reading. We already took up action item number 27, and that leaves us the last item on the agenda, which is a nice, easy one. Item number, yep. Second. All right, we have a motion second to withdraw 2025-883. No speakers in the queue. Open the ballot, record your vote.
8 yeas, 0 nays.
By your action, you have withdrawn 2025-883. With that, we have no further business to discuss. This meeting is adjourned.